Well, let me try and answer Clyde's question. Why? Okay. And let me say this. The real world that we live in is a world of mercantilism, not a world of free trade. Okay? And in that world of mercantilism, there's a fundamental divergence between the goal of our corporations, which is to maximize profit, and the goal, which we are discussing in this room, of rebuilding manufacturing in the United States. Because, and Clyde has just touched on examples of this sort, our great American companies can maximize their profit by taking their technology and know-how to Asia, where they can receive subsidies in the form of tax breaks, shared expenses, you heard. It's there, right? It's just plain more profitable, right? And they do not regard it as their mission in life to take care of the American economy. They regard their mission as to make as much money as possible for their shareholders. And in a mercantilist world, it is possible to draw them there. And that's what's happening, has been happening on a large scale, as you saw from Gil's introduction, and continues to happen on a large scale. Right? And none of this is addressed by the sort of standard responses of which we have heard some samples, but better education, cheaper energy, and so forth. This is a mercantilist world, and the inducements to our companies are making them go there. Right? What can we do in that world? Right? Not a world of free trade. Now, to have a government that works closely with chosen champions and so forth is not our tradition. And I do not think that we even want it to be, right? In the United States, the traditional tools that we have used to effect industrial action have been sometimes tax incentives and at times tariffs, right? We are used to the idea, for example, of R&D tax credits. But why not tax credits then for companies that have high value add in the United States? In other words, make the corporate income tax lower, but let's make it lower in proportion to the activity that these companies have in the United States, not somewhere else, right? And not across the board. Secondly, to balance trade. And it's been pointed out that with unbalanced trade, we are consuming more than we produce, and that cannot go on forever. And we will become a poor country and a country indebted to everyone else, right? Warren Buffett has proposed a very good and straightforward system that called import certificates, which is basically, if you're an exporter, you get import certificates which you sell on an open market. Right? And that's an incentive to export, and it also automatically balances. If you cannot import into the US without the import certificates, it balances trade. You can bring this in slowly to make an adjustment. Right? There are, what I'm trying to say is, even in a mercantilist world, and even within the limited framework of what we have traditionally done, and they mentioned the Nixon thing, for example, there are things that we can do that will both incent production here and balance trade. Why is it that most of the things that I have just mentioned are never even seriously discussed? Okay? And we have little tinkering things around the edges. And that is because the we is not very clear, right? We. Who is the we of the United States? We have two pieces in this puzzle. And one is our global corporations. And they are doing very, very well, right? And then there's the rest, including the workers, right? And they are not doing well. And what is good for the global corporations? The present system is working well for them, but the present system is not working well for the mass of Americans. And when you come to the political system, it does not act, and our legislative system does not act for a single we. They are affected by the global corporations who have a great deal of say in what we do in international trade, and also a tremendous political impact through money, right? And then there's the rest. And so I think we have to consider that we may not be taking the actions we could take because it's not clear who the we that is acting is. Thank you.